such a disgusting man Dashrath is. I hate him. Hi. So, welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, I read books. So, in our channel, we are going through Ram, and I'm back with another reading vlog. Let's see what happens next. So, we are a little way through chapter 5, and in the last chapters, we got to know that 6 years have passed after Dashrath lost that disheartening battle. He lost to Ravan, and on that very day, Ram was born. And we get to know Dashrath thinks Ram was born with bad karma, and that is why he lost the battle. Now the time has come, 6 years have passed, so Ram and Bharat is 6 years old, and Lakshman and Shatrughan are a little younger. Rajguru Vashisht has come to take them to the Gurukul. Queen Kaushalya is happy, but Mother Kaushalya is not. She just cannot let go of her 6-year-old son. But she knows that Ram needs to go because here it's no good. People hate him. Dashrath believes that it is because Ram was born, he lost the battle to Ravan. Kaikeyi was always the favorite wife, and after Kaikeyi saved him in that battle of the Karachappa fort, she is now even more favorite. The best idea is to just let Ram go to Guru Vashisht's Gurukul. As Dashrath believes that Ram's birth was a bad karma, so does the entire population of Ayodhya. This is what it says. Soon the city of Ayodhya shared the emperor's belief. It was widely held that all the good deeds of Ram's life would not succeed in washing away the taint of 7032. Now 7032 is the birth year of Ram. Like 7032 is the year Ram was born, 7032 was the year Dashrath lost to Ravan. It is to all of you in my channel. I personally do not have any idea of Hindu religious texts. If some of you know what does this mean, 7032, like when was Ram born, if you have any idea, please do let me know in the comment section, because I have no idea. So 7032 is the year Ram was born, and that is considered as the most horrible year, the year everything went bad. So Ram is considered bad. It's just better to, and Kaushalya knew the better idea is to let him go. She was upset, she was crying, and she was just kissing Ram helplessly. She just cannot let him go. And Ram is this stoic, calm, dutiful boy. Even at the age of 6, he was quite different, unreasonably calm. On the other side, Bharat, he was supposed to go to Gurukul as well, and he was crying, he was hysterical. He was holding his mother and crying that he doesn't want to go. And Kaikeyi was like, "You are my son. Behave like the king you will someday become." And Vashisht looks at these two boys and he starts thinking, who is going to serve his purpose? That stoic, dutiful boy, or that passionate boy who is open towards emotions? And with these two boys, two more young boys are coming, Lakshman and Shatrughan. They are too young, both of them are just 3. However, Vashisht wanted them to come as well because Ayodhya is not the city it was. They would be far better in the Gurukul than here. Now the Gurukul is a place where all the gurus lived, and also it was like a school to the children of Ayodhya. They learnt a lot many things in there, like philosophy, science, mathematics, ethics, warfare, arts. They would return back as a grown-up man, enough learned and enough old to handle one's destiny. Now these princes would go away to the Gurukul for some years, and Every year they would get a 9-day holiday. One long 9 day during the summer solstice and another long nine days during the winter solstice. And Vashish thought this 9 plus 9, 18 days would be enough for that reunion of the mothers and sons. As the 6 years have passed after that war, Dasharath has completely changed. This is what the book says. 6 years had taken their toll on the emperor. Parchment-like skin stretched thinly over a face that was worn out by grief. His eyes sunken, his grey hair. The grievous battle wound on his leg had long since turned into a permanent deformity. That wounded leg he had, it has just completely deformed his limbs, and he now can no longer go for hunting or another war. Also, he has started drinking a lot more than normal, and his body has become bent, and all that handsomeness we read in the previous chapters is all gone. And now Vashish is ready to take those 4 boys to his Gurukul, and he asks for the emperor's permission, and he is like absent-mindedly, take away, that kind of thing. In the next part of chapter 5, 3 years have passed after that day they left for Gurukul, and they are back again for their half-yearly holidays. It's Uttarayan or winter solstice. The sun has started its northward movement, and 6 months later it will be summer solstice, Dakshinayan, the reverse movement of the sun towards the south. Now, along with the boys, Guru Vashisht has also come to the palace, and Ram likes to spend most of his time with his Guru. Kaushalya wanted to spend a little more time with his son, but it was of no use. However, in case of Bharat, it was completely different. He was completely confined within the walls with Kaikeyi. Kaikeyi was interrogating him of everything in the Gurukul. Lakshman and Shatrughan are now 6 years old, and Lakshman has already started riding small ponies. Shatrughan just read books. So one day, Lakshman was going to his mother, and all of a sudden he heard voices outside of a chamber. So he stopped and peeped from behind the curtains. Now inside this chamber, Sumitra was teaching Shatrughan to stay close to Bharat, and she was convincing his son, no matter how much fun Bharat makes of Shatrughan, he should always stick to his brother. And Shatrughan was not really listening. He was very much into a palm leaf booklet he was reading. So after that, Lakshman rushed into the chamber to her mother, directly to her lap. She's like, I'll listen to you, ma, I'll listen to you, ma. And Lakshman has a sort of lisp in his voice, like instead of saying listen, he says listen. I will listen to you, ma, I will listen to you, ma. Sumitra loved her little boys, and she was like, yes, I know you will listen to me. You are my good son. Lakshman is this adorable little boy who says, I will do whatever you tell me, always. So Sumitra started teaching her other son, Lakshman, to stay very close to Ram. She convinces Lakshman that your elder brother Ram needs you. He's simple and innocent, so you can become his eyes and ears. You can protect him from people who try to harm him, who try to do things behind his back. You can be his extra set of eyes, because he has too many enemies, so he should depend on you. And Lakshman, with his widened eyes, really? He had enemies? Don't worry, ma, I will always be with Ram Dada. So Sumitra hugged both of her sons and says, yes, I know you will. In the next part of the story, we see there is this huge training field, and 9-year-old Ram is taller than Lakshman, riding ahead in a tall pony, and Lakshman is behind in a smaller pony, specially trained for children, and he is screaming, Dada, Dada, he's shouting. and he's trying to kick his little pony to go fast, but it cannot go any faster. It's trained like that. And Lakshman is desperately screaming over his voice, Dada, stop! Dada, stop! And Ram just turns around and says, Lakshman, slow down, follow the instructions. And Lakshman is, stop! So Ram immediately stopped. So that Lakshman could just catch up on him. Dada, get off! And Ram asks, what? Get off! Shouted Lakshman. So Ram kind of frowns and asks why. Then Lakshman points out that the buckle on his girth strap has come off and the saddle is kind of not fixed to its place. So it's dangerous. Ram then realizes that if the saddle would have somehow completely come off, he would have fallen from a running horse and there would be serious injuries. Lakshman just saved him from a terrible accident. And Lakshman, with his angry face looking everywhere, someone tried to kill you. Ram then examined the girdle strap properly and it just seemed like it has worn out. And Ram just hugs his little brother and says, thank you so much. And Lakshman just says, don't worry about any conspiracy. I will always protect you, always. Ram says, conspiracies? Who taught you that big word? And Lakshman goes on, Tatrugan taught me. Don't worry, I will always protect you. And Ram just kisses him and says, I already feel protected. Only 2 days are now left of the holiday. And Ram just visits the royal stable to groom his horse because they had a long day ahead. Ram liked it in the stables because the animals were the only people that did not judge him for who he was. While he was grooming his horse, he heard the sounds of hooves moving. So he turned around, he saw Lakshman and he was injured. And Ram just rushed forward towards Lakshman and helped him dismount. Lakshman had an accident and his chin has split up and he needs stitches. He was covered all over in blood. Ram then rebukes his younger brother, you must not be riding at the night. And Lakshman is like, sorry. Ram just asked him not to talk and started taking him towards Nilanjana's chambers. On their way to the doctor, they met Lakshman's mother, Sumitra. And Lakshman knew that he is in trouble because Ram Dada is going to say everything to his mother because he never lied. No matter how much storytelling Lakshman did, Sumitra wouldn't believe. But Ram just says, Sumitra, it's nothing, Choti Ma, but we need to take him to Nilanjana ji. But Sumitra still asks that what happened. But Ram, instead of telling the truth, tells Sumitra, it's nothing, Choti Ma, it's my fault. I took Lakshman to the stables for grooming the horse. The horse is little high-spirited, so it reared and kicked Lakshman. I should have stood in front of him. It was all my fault. Sumitra immediately believed because Ram never lied. A servant was about to follow these two princes, but Sumitra asked the servant not to. And Ram was holding Lakshman firmly and taking to the doctor, and Sumitra just smiled out of satisfaction. And Lakshman just took Ram's hand to his heart and said, always together, Dada, always together. This makes me so emotional. The four Ayodhyan princes have now spent 5 years in that Gurukul. And Vashisht is kind of proud. He has been watching these boys grow. Ram is now an 11-year-old boy. And this year, combat training has started for both Ram and Bharat. And Ram can now fight with full-grown opponents. Lakshman has grew up a little more. And he has lost that lisping. He's 8 years old, headstrong. And he has this immense loyalty and love for his older brother Ram. Shatrughan on the other side is this intellectual boy who always reads and has a lot of knowledge. Even when combat training is going on, Shatrughan is busy reading the Ishavasya Upanishad from a palm leaf booklet. Bharat is sitting beside Shatrughan and he kind of hit Shatrughan to observe the fight Ram was having. Now the Gurukul is in the middle of the forest, and Vashisht has selected Ram's opponent from among the people of the village. This Gurukul has been rented by several gurus, and the forest people has allowed them to do so. If an outsider tried to enter the Gurukul, the entrance is kind of camouflaged with dense forest and huge rooted trees. Beyond that, there are steps to enter the deep area of the forest, and they have to pass this dark tunnel to come towards Vashisht's Gurukul. Now, this Gurukul was by a hillside, and it looked like there had been a huge stone that had been cut out for the Gurukul to be there. And there were 20 small temples. Some of them had deities inside them. 6 of these temples had the previous Vishnus in them. One house belonged to Lord Rudra, the previous Mahadev, and another house belonged to Lord Brahma, the creator, and yet another house belonged to the king of the Devas, Lord Indra, who was also the god of thunder, and he was placed between all the gods. There were rock-like structures. One rock has been cut out to be the kitchen for the Gurukul. Another has been turned into an alcove-like sleeping quarters for the Guru and his students. Inside the Gurukul, these 4 princes did not live like royalty. They were like sons of the working classes. Other than Guru Vashisht, nobody in that Gurukul or among the locals knew that they were the royal princes. They were given new names. Ram was called Sudas, Bharat was named Vasu, Lakshman was Paurav, and Shatrughan was Naladartak. Other than learning a lot of subjects, they cleaned the Gurukul, cooked food, and also served their Guru. While the education will help them to achieve their goals, and the rest of the education will help them possess nobility and choose the right path. Vashisht has arranged this combat between Ram and a local named Matsya. Now, like Vashisht was the head of his students, these local people also had a head. His name was Varun. So both Varun and Rajguru Vashisht were going to watch the combat. Matsya and Ram, they just bowed to Vashisht and Varun, and both of them walked to the edge of the platform and picked up 2 paintbrush broom, dipped them in red paint. These were like wooden swords just for practice purpose, and this red dye would create marks on the body, showing that this was a lethal blow. Ram and Matsya stood face to face. They bowed to each other to show respect, and Ram said, "Truth, duty, and honor." And this Matsya boy, he was a foot taller than Ram, and he said victory at all costs. Ram took a position exactly like Guru Vashisht taught him, turned sideways and facing the opponent angled at his shoulder. This position exposed the least amount of his body to his opponent. His sword was out a few degrees above the normal horizontal line. Matsya kind of followed his posture and understood that Guru Vashisht has taught him well, and he follows everything taught to him. Matsya tried to take a strike because he was taller. It was easier for him to reach Ram, but Ram just shifted his body and avoided that killing blow. And Lakshman shouted from where he was sitting that, "Why didn't you take the shot, Dada?" But Matsya knew why was not Ram taking a shot. Ram was studying the psyche of his opponent. Matsya started attacking more and more, and Ram started fending off each attack. And Matsya thought he's too cautious and directly asked Ram, "Don't you have the guts to charge?" But Ram didn't say anything. He was determined and fixed in his position. Matsya says, "You cannot win the game if you don't play the game. Are you trying to avoid losing, or do you even want to win? Ram was calm and silent, and he was conserving his energy. Vashisht smiled, and Vashisht knew what Ram was aiming to do. Now Matsya tried for another shot, and Ram just shifted his body to change the position. Matsya didn't notice that there was this small rocky outcrop, which Ram smoothly avoided because he had noticed it. Matsya stumbled, lost his balance, and fell, and Ram didn't even lose that opportunity. He just turned and struck hard right at his groin, a kill wound. And Matsya was impressed with this boy. He just stood up and patted Ram on the shoulder and said that a fighter must always check the layout of the battlefield before engaging into fight. Ram remembered this basic rule and he didn't. Well done. Ram put down his sword and did a traditional salute of this forest dwellers. He just held his elbow and put a fist on his forehead and then bowed and said, "It was an honor to battle with you, great Arya." And Varun, the head of these forest dwellers, he just says to Vashisht that you have really taught him well. Who is this fine swordsman? And Vashisht says, you know I cannot reveal that. Next, there was going to be another combat. Varun sends a boy from his tribe. His name was Gauda. And Vashisht would send Vasu, that is Bharat, from his Gurukul. Gauda stepped ahead and touched the ground, seeking his blessing. Bharat did no such thing. He just rushed to the box of swords and picked up the longest one that would give him an advantage against a taller opponent. And Gauda just smiled because Bharat was just a child, and he just went to pick up his sword. And when he was back in the battlefield, Bharat was not there. Bharat was on the far end of the field painting his sword. And Gauda says, no practice. And Bharat says, let's not waste time. Now Gauda was waiting, and both of them are now prepared with their red blotched sword. And Gauda is waiting for Bharat to speak up his personal credo. And Bharat thumped his chest with gusto and said, live free or die. Gauda, he just burst into laughter, saying, live free or die, that is your slogan. Bharat just glared at him, didn't say anything, and Gauda said, victory at all costs. Contrary to how Ram was following Vashisht's teaching, Bharat took a position that completely exposed his body, and his sword was loosely held in his right hand. So Gauda asks, aren't you going to take a position? To which Bharat says, I am always battle ready, smiling with nonchalance. Gauda lunged for his first move directly at Bharat's abdomen, but Bharat twirled and gave a blow on his right shoulder, which kind of ached him a bit. And Gauda says, I could have disemboweled you. And Bharat just said, your arm would be on the floor before that, because there was this huge red blotch on Gauda's right shoulder. So Gauda laughed and went for another blow. But this time, Bharat leaped high to his right, bringing his sword down from a height, and it was an exquisite maneuver. He couldn't successfully pull off that move because he was shorter in height. Now, while Bharat was still airborne, Gauda hit directly on his chest, and Bharat fell on his ground with a clearly marked kill wound on his chest. He was hurt. His chest skin was kind of burning. However, he disregarded that pain and he stood up. And Gauda says that was a great maneuver, but you need to be taller for that. And Bharat says, I will be tall someday, and I will fight you again. And Gauda says, I'm looking forward to that day. Varun and Vashisht were watching this, and Varun says, I can't wait to see all of them grown up. And Vashisht says, neither can I. It is nearly dusk, and Ram is sitting by this stream contemplatively, which was a little away from the Gurukul, and Vashisht saw him, so he came up, and Ram could hear his footsteps, and he just immediately turned and with a namaste said, Guruji. Vashisht says, sit, sit. What are you thinking about? So Ram asks Vashisht that, Guruji, why do not you reveal our identities? The chief of the village looks like a good man, so why not tell the truth to him? Why lie? Vashisht says, holding back the truth doesn't necessarily mean that we are lying. Now Ram says, but not revealing the truth, isn't it lying, Guruji? And Vashisht says that no, it isn't, because sometimes truth can cause pain and suffering. There had been several instances where an outright lie gave rise to good situations. Now Ram says, but Guruji, lying is bad karma. And Vashisht explains to Ram that sometimes even telling the truth can bring miserable consequences. If one lie can save someone, wouldn't you lie? Shouldn't a leader save his people if that requires lying? So Ram says that if I have to lie for somebody, then they are not worth fighting for. Now Vashisht says, that is too simplistic, Ram. Didn't you lie for Lakshman once? So Ram says, that was an instinct. I was trying to protect him. However, it still makes me uneasy, and that is why I wanted to talk to you about it. So Vashisht says, Ram, that there is nothing to be repenting about it. Wisdom is moderation. Wisdom is bringing a balance. Lying can save someone from a miserable situation. Then is that so wrong? Now Ram says one odd example doesn't really justify lying. And then he adds that his mother, Kaushalya, once lied to his father, Dasharath. Father kind of discovered the truth later and stopped visiting his mother completely. He just cut her off. Vashisht watched Ram with great sadness. He knew that King Dasharath blamed the birth of Ram for everything that happened to him, and he just stopped meeting Kaushalya after that. But even if that hadn't happened, he would still stop meeting Kaushalya. So Vashisht then again explains Ram that I am not saying that lying is good or lying is okay, but if a tiny amount of poison can work as a medicine, so can lying. A small lie can save a lot of things from happening. Ram, you like speaking the truth. Why is it so? Because you think it's lawfully correct, or because this incident between your father and mother has made you think like that? So Vashisht decides to explain Ram that why he has chosen to hide most of the truth from Varun, the chief of the locals. He asks Ram, do you remember the time we visited Chief Varun's village? And Ram says, yes, Guruji. The Gurukul boys once visited Varun's village along with Vashisht, and the system of living is quite different there. The village has a semi-urban setting, and the houses are made of bamboo, strong and sturdy. They are all well organized. The houses don't even have doors because there are no crimes, and the children are not raised by their parents, but they are raised communally. They live a very organized life. And these princes and the other boys of the Gurukul, they were awestruck by the village and the organized living. There are no differences among the people of that village. The house of a chief and the house of a common man was equal. When a particular tribe member was asked that who does this particular house belong to, or who does this land belong to, one of the villagers gave a quizzical answer to that. They said, how can the land belong to us? We belong to the land. Ram remembers all of it, and Vashisht asks him, what do you think about the village? And Ram says, what a well-organized living standard they have. The city dwellers should learn from them. Vashisht further asks, what do you think is the foundation of their living? And Ram replies, they have lived selflessly. They do not have a single grain of selfishness among them. Now Vashisht then corrects him, saying, "No, Sudas, there are certain basic laws they have chosen to follow, and no matter what happens, they will always follow these rules, come what may." And Ram reacted as if he has found a new secret to life: laws. Vashisht continues, "Yes, Ram, laws. Laws are the foundation of a fulfilling life. Laws are the answer." And Ram liked this entire idea. Vashisht again continues that one might think that one or two laws can be broken for the greater good. Even I have broken a few laws for some plausible reasons. But Chief Varun thinks otherwise. Their laws and their mindset is built on the basis of childhood memories. In their tribe, when a child breaks a law for the first time, how minor it might be, he or she is made to suffer in the form of shaming. A further breach of the laws means more shaming. This is what has shaped their living. They are traumatized with the idea of breaking laws, very similar to Ram. Ram has once saw his mother lying to his father, and just because of that, his father stopped coming to his mother, and he has been traumatized with this entire idea of lying. He thinks it is one of the biggest crime that ever existed. Similar to Varun's tribe on breaking laws. Ram then asks that we have chosen not to share our identities with Chief Varun. Is there any law related to it? And Vashisht says yes. So Ram asks, what law? Then Vashisht reveals that their laws prohibit them for aiding any Ayodhya royalty. And Vashisht doesn't know why. This particular law serves no purpose, but the law has been there. And it has been strictly followed since forever. Varun's tribe doesn't even know where Vashisht comes from. And they don't even want to know. All they know is this is Vashisht and those are his Gurukul students. Ram then started looking troubled. He just asked Vashisht, "Are we safe here, Guruji?" So Vashisht then says that there is also another law about them protecting whoever is accepted in the Gurukul. And these 4 boys are part of the Gurukul and they have been accepted. And once accepted, they cannot harm them. But yes, they might expel these 4 if they ever find out that they are Ayodhyan royalty. But they are safe here because there are far greater enemies outside. Ram just slipped into a very contemplative mode, and Vashisht ended the conversation saying that I haven't lied, Sudas. I chose not to reveal the truth. And that was end of chapter 5. To know what happens next, keep following. We shall meet again in the next vlog. Bye bye.